Cool. Hi, I'm Haley Adams. I'm here with Chadwick Tree.
Mhm.
This is live in the Castro. Chadwick Tree is a tattoo artist hailing from New England, currently creating in the Bay Area. He began his journey as a professional artist, working in fashion and beauty photographer in New York City at the age of 16. And at 24, changed course and decided, hi, I'm Haley Adams. I'm here. Oh, sorry. This is. I have to find out where that's coming from. Chadwick Tree is a tattoo artist hailing from. Oh, Kyle, is that coming from you or me? Area. He began his journey as a professional artist, working in
Looks like it's coming from Chadwick.
in New York
You have it
City
open by
at the age of
chance?
16. And Chadwick, do you have your?
Oh my
Do you
gosh.
have the interview open? You're good. You're good.
That's
I've done this before. I've done that
happens all the
before,
time.
but I didn't know what it was.
no,
And I like
that's
just
okay.
freaked out and I was like, ah, and I just like left the meeting. Everybody's like, where'd you go? And it's like in the middle of a live interview.
That's so like meant to happen with me and technology. It is what it is. Well, we're back.
Well, we're back. All right, where was I? Fashion and beauty photography NYC at age 16 and at 24 changed course and decided to try his family business of tattooing in search of a more organic lifestyle and art. Chad began to grow in the field, tattoo at shops and conventions around the country, and finding his voice as a tattooer. He finds inspiration from folklore, mythology, and cultural folk art. Creating his own storybook world called Mossy Fable. His experience as a queer person in the ever-evolving world gave him perspective. Live your fantasy. Life is full of magic if you choose to see it. How you doing this week, Chadwick? Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Cool. How'd you get into fashion photography, especially at such a young age?
Actually, like give some background. I basically had 6 years of my life prior to doing photography. I wanted to be an opera singer, and
Whoa.
I had trained with to be an opera singer. I was doing really well with that. I was it was basically a big part of my life. And then at 15 years old, a friend of mine had a DSLR. Like the first time I saw a really nice digital camera, she was photographing me and my friends at a pool. And I just grabbed the camera and I got like a high off the shutter, I think, like just that feeling and having that gratification of a digital image that was high quality. It was like a pretty expensive Sony camera. And I remember thinking, I need to get one like immediately, like this has to be my life. And I basically begged my dad to get me a camera at the time. And he says, like, you have to pay me back immediately, and that's what ended up happening. And I think that kind of like idea of having to pay back for the camera investment and all this stuff made me push myself really hard when I first started doing photography. So it was like a really big benefit for me. To feel like I had to make money.
So you went out there and was like, just like put together a portfolio and was like, all right, I need to make money on this.
Yes, I had already been photographing a little bit with film for a couple of years. My dad also had a film camera in his closet that I just took, I think. I'm sure he would say that. I probably just grabbed it like I do with things. And I started taking pictures. I remember I went to Canada and took some pictures with some friends and their family. And then at that point I had some photos already. And then when I started doing digital work, I started reaching out to models and actors in my area, and I just started taking photos. And then like one thing led to another very shortly after I started with a digital camera. And a model who I worked with was with an agency in New York City. And the booker saw the images because the model wanted to put it in their portfolio. And that booker ended up asking me to come down, and I ended up working with them on like model cards and different photo projects.
Oh yeah.
Mostly just testing their models. So yeah, it was like a full 8 years, but it felt like forever that I was in this little New York City bubble of fashion photography. Yeah.
It was how long?
It was a full 8 years, but it felt like
maybe
like 12 or 15 years for some reason. It just felt like
that's a long time. So wait, what was the opera singing? Like when you were young,
Yeah, so
they were
basically it
like
started
pushing
with
for
like
that?
community theater, but I basically had a similar voice to what I have now, like as you hear me now.
Mhm.
Since I was pretty young, I would say. I think I might have just like had a lot of hormonal issues. I'm 6'6". I just have like something was going on. And so I could sing like an older gentleman, like I Frank Sinatra or Nat King Cole, like from 10 years old or
Oh
something.
my God, that's so cool. Do you
And
have
then
recordings of this? I mean,
I
I
do have
know.
one recording I could send you.
Oh my God, I want to see that so bad.
Which is a Nat King Cole cover because Nat King
I
Cole
love Nat King
was
Cole.
my favorite when I was a kid. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And basically, but also like my father raised me on that type of music. Like I was just really into older music growing up. So I think it was also kind of just like part of my upbringing all my life to sing. You know, the earliest music I feel like we listened to is Frankie Valli, and like we went further back at the Rat Pack and Dean Martin and stuff. So so yeah, anyway, I was doing that, and then it was just like my life shifted immediately, even though I was very professional, working towards maybe going to a good college for music or something. And then I just found a camera and was like, screw music. So I ended up having that career for a long time, and then finding tattooing later in life.
Wow. You have a lot of career shifts then.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, I
just like
think
happen too, and it's great experiences.
having like immigrant to the mainland family, they are always just like I was probably like 8 years old and my mom joked like, when are you going to get a job, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but she was like, and I think in like your heart of hearts probably serious, like, when are you going to contribute to this household?
Yeah.
So I think like eventually I had to find ways that I thought that I could be happy and have a career one day. And that's why I was like very serious about music and then very serious about photography.
It's impressive that your family was really into music too, and like, like you got pushed that way a little bit too.
Yeah, well, I would
That's
say
pretty
that like
awesome.
we had like a very strong music influence on our family, but it wasn't necessarily professional on anyone else's end. But
Yeah.
it was just that they really my dad specifically and my mom too, more for like 80s music if I remember correctly. But like my
Hell
dad,
yeah.
for the most part, with the older music was just like we would sing in the car constantly. We'd take road trips a lot as a kid. So when we were on road trips, it was just the whole family singing the oldies.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share some of your work on the Instagram, and then, or on, share, screen share. And then if you would, here, let me get there. Will you describe your art style and what inspires your artwork?
Yeah. So I think I always think of my art as a connection to myself, which I'm sure a lot of artists feel. And my upbringing was like very multicultural. So I have like an indigenous Caribbean background and a Polish Jewish background. And growing up with that, I think my work was a mixture of like, my work now is a mixture of celebrating nature through indigenous folk art, and just like this other mix of fantasy that is just purely what I love. So growing up, you grow up in like a temple, you see a lot of like stained glass styled paintings from Israel or Poland. And that's something that you see a lot throughout my work, is that like a stained glass effect kind of
Yeah.
filling in lines like you would if you were making stained glass. And I think that is like the biggest thread throughout my style, because no matter what I get into, maybe this past few months I've been really into cottage vibes and fairies and all this stuff, but I have had times where I'm more into water creatures or more into this or that. And the one thing is that the style in which I create my tattoos are all the same. But yeah, I think that the other thing was that prior to getting an apprenticeship, I had experience working for Maria Bolt. She is from Maastricht, Germany. She's a female tattooer who spent her life restoring stained glass churches.
Whoa.
And then decided to tattoo much later in life. And she actually really influences my art today. I give her a lot of credit because she really was the first person in person to inspire me as a tattooer. You know, she was a female. She was really a boss bitch, right? Like she just
Hell yeah.
care what, she was really tough. Like, and it's funny for me, I felt like I wasn't even as tough as she was in a lot of circumstances. And she was also just this like fine artist of this like style that was very much inspired by things that are classic but also stained glass. And I also take some silly photos and put them on Instagram too.
Those are incredible, and they perfectly lead up to your flash.
Yeah, and I'm like always in the
love 'em.
forest. Like I'm pretty much always in the forest. Like I have no real life but the forest. So
This is cute.
I think that's why I just like a lot of nature photos. Yeah, that's my partner.
So sweet. Yeah, I mean, also you're a really good photographer, and that shows up really well here. This is
Thank you.
crazy. The vibrant reds in your work with the gold and teal. Oh, so good. I love it.
Yeah, I love
This
color.
one. Oh,
I love like an autumn style color, but then I also really like I really just love teal. I could like swim in teals like the rest
yeah.
of the days. But
Yeah, you have like a warm side and then a teal side. It's
Yeah.
very cool.
yeah, and I've tried to like play around with both of them at times, but in one piece. But yeah, so I think that's basically it. So some of these pieces like are based off of folklore or just my imagination of a forest that I now, as of the past couple of years, call Mossy Fables or Mossy Fable. And
They all live there.
I'll live there.
So
Yeah.
cute. I love it.
And I try to explain it sometimes in like some descriptions. Like I think the fish one we just passed has a description like that. That actually just like a folklore piece that I did.
Oh, where's the fishy? This one?
I want to say he has a little story, but yeah, just like a
Ah,
basically
he's a firefly crystal fish.
yeah. And I think that this forest, as a queer person, I created a world within myself. I would say that my family found me very quiet growing up for the most part. And I think I was just very much internal for so many years.
Yeah.
And this space that I've created really is a space in a practical sense to like maybe celebrate my clients' culture through folk art, or maybe just their interest through my folk art. But also I think is a place where all my ancestral, genetic, cultural upbringings can be kind of viewed in this lens of nature and fantasy, you know? So I think that that's kind of what I do. Yeah.
That's amazing. They're so beautiful, and it's so thoughtful too.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that like, I will say that like something I found that it surprised me. Like I don't really think about myself that much. And I think as I've tattooed, I've learned that there is a lot of compassion in me, which is surprising to me, actually. I was just like, oh, I didn't know that I cared so much, but I do.
Wait, the compassion of whenever you're hurting people to like really care about them too.
Yeah, well, that I also, I'm like always like kind of vaguely freaked out that I'm hurting someone when I'm tattooing them. And most people say I tattoo like I say I tattoo like a grandma, and a lot of people agree. Like just the concept of like a very nice, sweet granny not wanting to hurt.
Oh, are you okay? Okay. Yeah. Every time I get tattooed, I think, oh my God, why do we do this to people? That's so fucked up. We do this to people.
No, I know. It's true. I can't stand getting tattooed, though I have so many, but I can't stand it whatsoever. I'm surprised every time someone hires me for another tattoo. I'm like, wow, you must really love pain. Cool.
It's that joy afterwards.
Yeah.
When did you really make the shift to pursue tattooing as a career?
So basically, there's like this funny long story, but I won't go into it too much detail. But I have a biological father that wasn't really around with me growing up. I saw him in a few different circumstances, but I never had a lot of time with him, and so I didn't really see him as my father, you know. And he found me on YouTube.
What?
One of my we had completely separated, you know, in connections, you know. And
was he searching for you?
Well, to be honest, the story isn't that he found me, but my little sister, who was only like 12 or 13 maybe at the time, I think.
Aw,
She was on YouTube as little girls doing whatever they do on YouTube. And
totally.
I think she said that she Googled her, my biological father's name, which was the name that I used because it's the name that I was born with, when I was a fashion photographer. And there was an interview of me, very drunk interview, which is not my favorite thing. But I was 20 or some 20, I had been like 22, and I was just drinking a lot in a bar, and they had an event for me to celebrate my photography. And the person who did the interview was like a French company that decided to film me after I had drank for like
Oh my
hours or something at this event. And it was just the worst. I was so like full of myself. It was just really funny.
Yeah.
But
As we
anyway,
are when we're drunk, we're
Yeah.
obnoxious little
Yeah.
assholes, you know, like
yeah, I was exactly that. And that was kind of the first impression my little sister probably got of me.
oh my god.
No.
She probably thought you were really cool though. That she was probably like, look at this confidence. Like
Yeah.
he's a fashion photographer, you know.
Yeah. And so basically they got in touch, and I met my biological father for the real first time when I was, I think, 23 or so. Because when I was a kid, I don't think I made the connection that well, you know.
Yeah.
To be honest, I have a ton of family members, just like a ton of them. I feel like you just go down the street somewhere and there's another one of my family members.
Oh, do you have a lot
Um,
of siblings?
Well, I have technically
Yeah.
4 siblings, but I grew up with 2 of them, yeah.
Nice.
And but it's just like tons of cousins, tons of uncles and aunts, and just like seems like it just never ends at some point. But basically that's when I got into tattooing, because my father was a tattooer back in the day. He had tattooed
Mhm.
the Marines. He's a Marine.
Your
Um,
biological
biological
father
father,
or
yeah.
father that raised you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you know, I was reconnecting with him, and he knew I was an artist. At the time I was in fashion, and to be honest, fashion kind of like lost its magic at the end of my
Does it get weird?
yeah, it
or-
gets weird. Yeah, like basically a lot of dark stuff to sell clothes, and then you kind of think, does that make any sense? Like I don't think we have to get, if it gets that dark, it probably isn't right, you know.
Yeah.
Eating disorders from some of my friends who are in the industry in that capacity, a model, and
Yeah.
just like I remember there was an Italian designer that literally spit on my face when I was working, saying I was doing it wrong. And then there was like some weird club promoter model situation that made me feel very uncomfortable, like their actions, you know. And I was just like, this probably isn't the place for me. I was just like such a silly little boy from New York State originally, and we live in the
Silly
forest,
little boy.
in the mountains, and everyone's all like, I found everyone charming and sweet where I was raised. Like they were just nice, purely, truly, deeply nice people. And then to come out to New York City and just like be like hit with all of that, it was really hard for me. So I was complaining to my biological father one day about it, and he recommended that I go to my cousin and get an apprenticeship. My cousin is Jason
Cool.
Delgado. He's an amazing tattooer. He is still in New York City, but he spends time in the Caribbean, I think, throughout the year. But he is based in New York City mostly, and he does every type of tattooing. But he had a tattoo shop in Upper Manhattan, and that's where I did my apprenticeship. It was called Gunmetal Ink. Very tough, and it was really popular. Like my apprenticeship was super difficult, because I see kids now with their apprenticeships, and I think like I don't think we all don't really love to operate as a street shop. There are obviously artists that do still, but I think a lot of artists move to like appointment only and to work in a more healthy way for all of us, so that we could do the appointments we need to do, but not like die doing it.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
But back in the day, 10 years ago or so, when I started my apprenticeship,
Some people are still living like that,
Yeah.
with the whole like street shop back to back to back and like dig you into the ground shit.
yeah, and you know, I'm sure there's a few people that like super thrive on that too. But I know that some people do it more out of this crazy country's necessity to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
So I think that yeah, anyway, so I was in a street shop, and I had a really good people around me, other artists like Donnie Lopez and Chris Steele. And they were also mentors to me in some respect, even though they were, I love you guys, but they were assholes.
Yeah.
And I kind of dealt with that kind of like true macho man tattoo energy, and as a queer man, that is not easy. I am like the least like that, I think. I don't even, sometimes I don't understand it. When I was younger, I definitely disrespected that way, you know, because it was just so, it was so crude to me to see and to experience. There was a lot of that kind of clashing, but it really just comes as I've become more of an adult. I've realized it's nothing negative towards them. You know, I just took it in a really negative way because I'm so different from that. But now I've understood that you have to understand and respect people for who they are.
And toxic masculinity is real.
No, yeah, and that's something that I couldn't like. It's not like I could cure them of that.
You can't control it. Yeah, it's just. But it's also pretty impressive that didn't turn you away from the tattoo industry, or be like, you know what? Like, I saw this shit in fashion, and now I'm seeing this shit here, like a new kind of shit.
I mean, you know, it did kind of put me in a space where I didn't really like tattooing for a while, like the industry. I would always say, I love the one-on-one experience with people, but I can't stand this industry. I would always say that and feel like that. And to this day, I'm sure a lot of that's true. I think now that we don't, I used to go to a lot of conventions and travel a lot. Traveling was never bad. I love guesting, but I think the guest spots, I mean, the conventions, you always saw like so much that machismo, the old school energy that seems to like be putting other people down for no reason out of fear, you know. And and so now that I've been so separated of that because of COVID, I haven't experienced a convention in many years. I think like I feel like separate from that dislike about the tattoo industry, and I realize it is what you make of it, you know. But I think like, I was surprised that I did it, but you know, I always also thought, I'm like, I'm a gay guy, okay, I am way tougher than any straight dude, and I can that's what I always thought. So
that's what I'm always like, why are they so angry and sad? Like they have like the easiest part of this, you know what I mean? I'm like, what? Like when I first tattooed with like chicks for the first time, I was like, fuck, they're gonna be mean as shit if these guys are mean, and you know, they've only had to put up with like regular dude shit. Like these chicks must be hard as nails and assholes. And I would like walked in, everybody's like, haha, yeah, I love my life. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like
I was always just like, you know, the whole thing they say about like gay guys and gay sex. I'm like, you straight guys wouldn't take that, so you could just shut right up. Like,
no patience.
Yeah. So I kind of like, there were times where it was really difficult. I mean, I remember crying a fair amount in my apprenticeship, you know, because also like I was saying, on the street shop, they're very popular actually. I met Cardi B when I was there because she got tattooed there. Sick. And that was a crazy experience. But basically, they were so busy that it was like set up, break down, set up, break down, set it, break down. At times it felt really dizzying, and it wasn't the biggest, most open space in the world, you know, and you have a bunch of ego guys because they're young guys, you know, too, and so like that. So it's like, and then me being a gay guy, it came up way too often, you know,
all the time, right? Every other sentence.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but you're gay because you're gay. What, are you gonna suck that dick, bro? Like.
And then I wish I had it in me to be like, oh, you're straight, huh? Like, you know, like, whoa. Yeah.
Wow, really cool with that heteronormativity. Are you gonna get married and get a truck and have some kids? That's cool. Yeah. Like,
yeah, I should have been like that. And honestly,
so we don't know, you know, because
probably would have loved those conversations though, because knowing guys and they love to talk about stuff like that. But I you know, and I remember like the worst part that sticks to me, to be honest, is that like guys would like cat call women and stuff like that in the streets, and I'm just like, I would always like kind of like shake, you know, because it just make me feel really uncomfortable. But either way, different time, different world, and I do believe that they all are good people that have grown from all of that, you know. But anyway, that's where I apprenticed, and my whole family are on that side, are like the men are in the service, and so my
like firemen and stuff.
No, yeah. So also my cousin is also a Marine, but I also have some Navy uncle and everything.
Like military.
You froze. So let me see. Well, anyway, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, your video's frozen, but it's okay. Oh, you got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
You're
and then,
good on my end. I don't know if
yeah, I could see you now.
okay.
So yeah, so basically, my cousin ended up leaving towards the end of my apprenticeship to Iraq, I believe.
Mhm.
I might be wrong, and that actually gave me
He
my
was in the military while he was tattooing.
yeah. I would say that's
That's wild.
probably a common trend to any of my tattooing family.
Mhm.
I think that it comes from the fact that like back in the day, tattooers weren't necessarily just tattooers more often, you know. I think a lot of tattooers had other jobs, you know. So it's probably commonplace for them to feel that that's what they were doing too. But yeah,
Yeah.
so my cousin went away, and I didn't feel like I had a solid place. I think my cousin was like the warmness to the whole scenario, you know, because we were related.
He's like your
And,
buffer, the
yeah,
buffer
so
from the
when he
other.
left, I was like, I gotta go. So after my apprenticeship, I ended up opening up a little studio for a short period of time in Ridgewood, Queens, and then yeah, I think I just started like
How was that?
moving around and doing different shops. It was cool. I like got to bring on like a lot of my friends, some who were like international and coming in just for short periods of time to be guests there. And then just I had Maria Bolt actually work with me while her husband was a NYU professor for like a year or something. So she was in town, and so she worked with me, and it was
That's
really
cool.
yeah. So it was nice. It was like it was slow though. I just got my apprenticeship, and to be honest, it was not the right move in retrospect because I had no real clientele to speak of, and I didn't have the experience, in my opinion, to have a very well flowing tattoo shop, you know. But it was a really good experience at the end of the day to just learn a little bit about what that would take.
Yeah, and you're probably like, oh God, I can't imagine just going to another shop that's like street shop that puts you through the
Yeah.
ringer again, you know?
Oh, yeah, and I think being a queer person, I really at the time believed wholeheartedly I would never have been a tattooer if I didn't have family who were tattooers, you know.
Yeah.
I just didn't think that there was a place in New York City at the time that I can go to and feel understood because I was still a new tattooer, right? But then
Yeah.
also understood because I'm a queer man, and that
That
simply
would
is different.
especially a few years ago. It's like, yeah, we see New York City and like the Bay Area, like, oh, now there's queer tattooers all around and it's more open. But just a little bit of time ago, that was like felt impossible to find.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember at conventions, I'd be obsessed with trying to find out
One great tattoo. I do that, or I mean, I used to do that. Now I'm like, oh, everybody fucking knows. But like just being like, oh, are they? I mean, I guess we still talk about like, yo, 2 rows over, I heard so and so is gay, and they're like, oh, cool, let's make him our friend. Like,
yeah, exactly. If I had a convention now, that would be the scenario. But I think before I was just like obsessed with the idea that like no one openly. I was one of the first few people I noticed at conventions. I used to have like a giant. I used to have a giant pride flag like in my booth instead of a.
oh my God, that's so brave.
Yeah,
I know like it shouldn't be brave, but God, that's fucking brave. Like all the like bike rallies and conventions I tattooed like in the South, I'm like, oh man, I can't imagine. You're on the East Coast and shit.
Yeah. And you know, I would say that the East Coast is generally pretty liberal, but I feel like you just kind of get anywhere you live in this country, you're going to get the opposing aspect of it, you know?
Yeah.
So there was some nonsense because obviously I was putting myself up for this level of scrutiny being someone who came out at the conventions. But I actually had a friend I did a lot of my conventions with who's an amazing tattooer named Bobby Caparo. And I always found it funny because he's just like this like you know, adorable straight Italian dude, and he was just a really good friend of mine, and he had to tolerate with me being like super gay about everything. Like I was just all about showing up because no one else was, and you know, I hope that it like opened up people to doing that at the time, you know.
And like walking around that convention, if you're like queer anyway and you go to this booth, you know, you're like, oh wow, cool, thank you, you know, like oh, I can breathe for a second, you know, because you're always trying to like, oh yeah, like dodge like little comments and little looks and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, thank God. It's you. Fuck it. Let's take our shirts off and just lay here. Like, let me just take a minute. Okay, let's go back into it. It's like, oh, existing is political, even though I don't want to fight everybody every day. Cool. Like, I think you gave that space, like space for people to even just walk by and breathe a little bit easier.
Exactly. No, that's a good point, because I feel like even I'm not gonna even lie, today, this world we live in, depending on what part of the country I'm in, and even some just random places, I will feel like me being who I want to be in that moment might be a hindrance to other people, or it might upset people, and it might become something, And, so it's kind of wild that, I always thought when I was a kid, this silliness would be over. And I just gave way too much credit to the human.
Yeah. You're like, maybe I'm just like shy. Or no. That's we were talking about that recently, talking about like being in the Bay Area and how like nobody like gives a fuck, or like mostly like San Francisco, Oakland stuff. No one gives a fuck like what you're doing, and like how like easy that is to be like, oh yeah, I'm like, I'm into poly and I'm queer and like, I just got top surgery or whatever. And people are like, yeah, cool. Anyways, you say that shit in North Carolina or like, other places in America, and they're like, wait, now what? Wait, what? Like they like think they have stake in this, They're like, what?
And it goes right back to that time where that was the case, for me and whomever that happens to, when it's like, I was in a shop that had to mention it all the time because it was something that they didn't have a lot of experience with.
Yeah, it's like their way of processing it, like constantly bringing it up.
And it was I will say that I would say it was every single shop I've ever worked in where that was the situation until now.
It's the main focal point. That's what they focus in on as soon as they know it.
And it always made me feel weird. I'm like, that is between me and whomever I'm with or whatever. But outside of that, to be honest, it has nothing to do with work. And at times, and especially when I'm in a space where that isn't something that we share with other artists at that shop, it doesn't need to be something that needs to be mentioned at all, really. And then when it does, it was always kind of like a joke or something. And I'm just like, it's just,
that's the worst part about it. It's like, okay, but these people are supposed to be your shop family, right? So you should be able to bring your like boyfriend around, your girlfriend around, like whatever, right? And not like have like full acceptance and just be like, oh, hey, what's up? Oh yeah, you're so-and-so. Cool. But instead, the sexuality becomes a joke. Yeah.
Or you just know they're going to have some conversation about it later, or dialogue, or just kind of like the context of how they're acting or something is off.
Yeah.
So it's so weird. But
what was it like growing in New York State as a kid?
So I have a deep love for New York State. It was one of those places that kind of informed how I feel about everything now, because I was in a world where if I went on a hike, not only would I be at a hike where there were no other people most of the time, like I could literally be in the forest for hours and not see another person, but also there'd be like magical little places that were off the trail that you'd find. And this would happen constantly to me. It made me fall in love with nature. And I had a lot of spiritual experiences with nature when I was a kid in New York State. And I feel like now I kind of like feel spoiled by New York State and my upbringing, because especially here in California, I'm going to say it, like some forests I luck out, but most of the time you're with a billion other people hiking.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me feel weird, because I'm just like, that wasn't my life. And now it's my life, where I just have to see a bunch of humans, when this is where I'm going away. I'm going to like get away from the humans, So, so I really do feel like New York State's just this place. I live in a few places, but one of my favorite places I lived in New York State was Suffern, New York. And it was like a little plateau crater town. Like there was mountains all around us. And we were just like in this little simple, cute little town to have like a few antique stores and restaurants. And I just loved it there. Like in a weird way, it makes no sense whatsoever, but I idealized the idea of just living there forever when I was growing up, because it was just so perfect to me.
You could.
Yeah,
Could you?
yeah. But the thing is that the thing I learned as I got older was that there's really not much going on outside of these one little cute aspects. And while I love those things, like I'm a constant antique shopper or whatever. I love to hike, obviously, but there's a little bit more to life that you're gonna want.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't get anything else out of where I'm from. So yeah, that's basically growing up, yeah, and stuff in New York State.
That sounds magical, and it looks like that you've really brought that into your artwork too. So at least if you have left there, you always bring it with you, you know?
Yeah, and it's always somewhere I could visit. A lot of my family lived there or nearby, so I could always go back. I'm gonna go back in October, so I'll be able to experience that magic. And who knows how I'll see it at this age, because it's been a while. But
Yeah, that'll be interesting. You tattooed in Connecticut for a little bit. What was the tattoo culture in Connecticut versus New York City?
yeah, so in Connecticut, I feel like everything kind of feels pretty separate and far away from each other as far as the shops themselves. But there's a lot of nice connection and community throughout all the shops. And I feel like also there were key people that I feel like really brought their own energy and style into their tattoos for sure in Connecticut. And I feel like my experience in New York was a little earlier in my career, right? So my first years. So what I saw was very different from that. It was more like I think tattooing was still in this like only service, space when I first apprenticed. So I think that's a clear difference too. But I think like I honestly personally didn't see a lot of soul in the art of people of New York City. I felt like it was more like showboating or ego or this tough motif of the back in and I feel like it's hard for you to see someone through their art if they're not willing to be like vulnerable, I guess, and so when it comes to people in Connecticut, I feel like there's a bunch of people that are willing to be vulnerable. There's a bunch of people that also are kind of like that too, like they are in New York. But I feel like there's a lot more people in Connecticut that are willing to be vulnerable with their art and show something that is a piece of them, whether it's received well or not. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. So I think that Connecticut and New England in general, New England is so cool. I'm like I feel like my heart's in New England after all these years of moving around a bit. And I feel like I made some of my best friends in New England. I have like family.
Where's New England? Is it the Washington? No, you have to tell me.
Yeah, so basically it comprises a bunch of different states.
Yeah.
So it's Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And I think there's another one. But anyway, so basically it's all up there, all the northeastiest place in the country.
Yeah.
And,
I always get it confused. Like for some reason, sometimes I think it's on the West Coast, and sometimes I think it's Middle America, like up towards the top. I'm like, I really have to understand this. Yeah.
I will say, if you spend time in New England, at least in my life experience, it's a specific place, Yeah. So once you're there, you kind of get an understanding of what it is, and then you're like, oh, this is New England for sure, Because while these states are all very different in their own ways, they all have this kind of old world connection that's all very similar because it's all like kind of colonial, and then they have these like really beautiful seaport towns. That's very like prominent thing about New England, and they all have the same like real like sailor style vibes in all these cute little towns on the sea. So I really love New England, and I'm excited to go back.
That sounds cute. And don't they have like a lot more brick buildings? I know we're in California. I don't see much brick, but that's how I picture it. It's like maybe cobblestone roads.
Yeah, cobblestone. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, definitely a lot of cobblestone. A lot of Victorian houses. That's actually how I think of it.
Yeah.
Some of my photography, even I have it on my Instagram, but I have another little page. It's like this dark art stuff, and it's like completely inspired by my deep love for New England. And I feel like I've always been a New Englander in my soul, because like when I went there and just experienced the witchiness of everything, and the fact that like I would say even the most like a modern, Catholic Christian woman, whatever, or like mother, like this is an example because of specific mother I'm thinking about, but these people that would claim that they still have this connection to this old world customs, and they're very pagan, they're pre-Christian customs, and even those people in New England do these witchy things, and I'm just like,
Cool.
it makes me happy to know that these people are keeping these pagan traditions alive of their ancestors. And even a lot of times I would say they don't even know their direct ancestry, but they just have these traditions that are maybe local to this area in Connecticut or in New England. And I'm just in love with that. I think that's how I want to live my life. And so when I was there and having the opportunity to find little ways in life to live that way, I feel like it was really a beautiful thing. And, I wish that for everybody, because it's just so lovely and charming.
That sounds amazing. And yeah, that makes me want to go there and try to experience that. That sounds
I would say, like, if anyone wants to go to New England, New England's not paying for this, but Mystic is one of my favorite towns in Connecticut, specifically.
Cool.
And it's just this little old-fashioned village that you can go and live like an old little witch in these little cute.
Oh my God, I'm gonna go there to escape the world one time, like, for a little bit.
There's so many stores, and during the prime season, it's like just amazing. So
that's so awesome. Oh, what brought you to California, and what was your journey to get here? Why was that a good idea? This seems so far away from all of that.
I don't know if it's a good idea. No.
You're like, it's okay. Fuck
it's an idea.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta live your life,
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that I know now what California, at least the Bay Area, is about, because that's something that was on my mind. I feel like for whatever reason, people would think I would thrive in California from a New Englander perspective.
Because you're gay, though. They just go, oh, you're gay. You should be in California.
Yeah, maybe. You're so cool because you're gay. You should be in California. I don't know.
I mean, it has like the gay hub of America is like San Francisco. Like they all know, or everybody knows.
To be honest,
go there.
Concept of San Francisco before moving here was Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh
my only idea whatsoever. But basically,
I didn't know they were in San Francisco.
Yeah, I actually, like, when I first moved here, I watched it because I was like, oh, I get to like see where I'm living. Wow, even though I could just walk outside, but sure, the movie was.
I watched that at the Castro Theater, and he I think it was like the director, one of the writers or something, like explained the whole concept of it was like, about how men get fucked over in divorces, like with their kids, like how they want to see their kids or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But he like really broke it down, and I was like, interesting. I guess I just thought it was like a weird goofy movie, like.
No, I could feel that. I saw it and I kind of like really felt the emotion when I saw it recently.
Yeah.
But, I moved here because my partner is an engineer, and he found an opportunity here that I guess he couldn't pass up, right? It's a good stepping stone for him in his career. And we both wanted to change for sure. As much as I love New England, I think like my life focus is always on like trying something new. I think COVID also made it clear to everyone that we don't know how long we have on this planet. So just do what you feel in your heart is right to do. So I felt that it was a good option for us to try something new. And to be honest, we landed in Santa Cruz first for a year prior to moving to San Francisco. And, that wasn't a good choice.
It's very small and cliquey, I guess. I mean, I like Santa Cruz, but what'd you feel about it? How'd you think?
I just felt like it was Inferno.
It's kind of, I forgot. It's fucking hot as hell.
And then it was just really nothing going on unless you wanted to, if you want to shop, I mean, it's okay, maybe, because there's like a few spots to shop, but the food wasn't even that great. That's all I'm gonna say about
you have to be
that.
really into surfing, I think, to be like, I could be here forever,
That's true. Yeah. And I am not. So yeah, it was just kind of like seeing the surf culture too is a little bit it felt tough to watch because it seemed so commercialized. It felt like it was just buy this and you're a surfer, you know.
Yeah. And then
And
you got surf jocks like beating people up and
yeah,
shit. They're
yeah.
like super rich and they're like, get off, you know, and like they trying to claim like certain areas. I heard these stories like a lot where they're like, it's like a group of millionaire dads and then they like police a area of the beach, you know, and they're like, get off my wave, get locals only. And you're like, wait, what happened to this culture? Wait,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Yeah. And there's such like another context to the idea that like, I always find it really funny when any group of people that are settlers here, I guess, are gonna be like, this is my land or something.
right?
Like, what are you talking about? You could enjoy the land. I mean, the earth is for everyone, but like, don't get crazy about it.
Yeah,
like,
for real. But you definitely don't own shit. Yeah.
That's how I feel. So yeah, anyway, so it was a really weird space. And I do think that I met some really nice people though. And I had some fun experiences and I actually really love the nature there, I will say. But I hated hiking during the summer. There was only 3 weeks of winter where it like rained. And and then I found mushrooms, which you'll see from my work if anyone goes on my Instagram. I'm absolutely obsessed with mushrooms. You see a lot of them in my stories and obviously in my art. And you know, there was 3 weeks where I could just go to the forest every day and like forage my life away, and that's basically what I did for those 3 weeks of winter. And but then after that, it kind of felt like a dry. It was dry in all the like in the ways, all the ways that you could dry could be used in a sentence. Put it in a sentence, and that's been a cruise for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's ironic because there's a lot of beach there, but
but I mean, yeah, no, it does make sense though. It's like how cars rest like in like up north, like northeast and everything, and then out here they don't like rust as hard. Like cars just like disintegrate out there, and then it's like, no, it's like fucking dry and wet here. Wait, what? Yeah.
But yeah, that was Santa Cruz. But I'm really happy to be in San Francisco and through my experience working with you and working at the shop now that I'm in. I just like feel like very blessed and very happy, and everything's been going really well.
Yeah. Do you have? Oh yeah. If anyone has any questions, put them in the chat now. Sometimes people don't have any, but that's all right. I'm still gonna check. What's a good tip for young tattooers out there? Do you have any advice for any of the young queer kids or anybody?
Yeah, so I will say that I personally made the most typical mistakes of any, like tattooers basically all know this, but like I learned a lot of the classic things, but then I was so eager to run away from them because I think I wanted to try something new. And I was willing to be experimental. And I feel like a lot of the people that were originally getting tattooed for me were also open to the experimental energies. But I would have loved to do an apprenticeship classically and then spend like 3 to 4 years just doing like traditional or neo-traditional, most more likely. Something in the vein of neo-traditional. Because then it would have saved me so much time. Like I honestly feel like the first 5 years of my tattooing, I was like, interesting. Like now I look back on it, I'm like, what were the choices I was making, you know? And because I see tattooing differently now than I did at that time. I was just being a rebellious person. So I think people who do get into apprenticeships or even want to tattoo, I think that it's everyone really in this society wants to like skip and jump and do things fastly and like get the gratification immediately, make the money immediately. And unfortunately, there's no good way to say this, but that's just not the right way. Like that's how I see it. I think that like
it takes you so much longer to learn this little things like that you could have learned in a year at that.
Exactly. And you want to be respected too. I think like you know, most people are like, well, and I was kind of like, screw everyone else, I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. And then I realized that, you know, I probably would have gotten even more information, you know, being shared with other people if they respected my art too, because I was at least being respectful of the art form before I branched out more, you know, and I think all these different things. So I think it's a matter of like immense respect for the craft that gets you to where you want to be. And I feel like that's really a hard thing for some people. And I think it's a society. It's not really individuals' faults as much as like the society wants us to be like instant gratification, instant results, instant this. Like, don't have a good healthy lifestyle, just like stop eating for a week, you know what I mean, or something
Yeah.
like that. And basically that's kind of the society we live in. So like that's another reason why I think a lot of what I do and who I am is old world. Like I love to do things the hard way in life now. I like to bake and cook a lot, and I want to like make it as it has to be completely raw ingredients. A lot of the things we grew from seeds in our backyard and stuff like that. Like we want that full experience so that we could feel that gratification, but it takes a long time to get to that point. You need that 6 months to grow that food, you know, or whatever the case may be. So you really need that time within whatever you're doing within tattooing to become a good tattooer and to respect yourself and be respected within the industry. Yeah.
That's really sweet too. Like also the way you're talking about like baking and cooking, when like it makes you respect the whole process more. Yeah.
And just feel like really proud of what you've accomplished at the end of it. And I think that there's a lot of people that I could also, please, young tattooers, don't copy other people's tattoos.
Oh my God, please stop doing that. That's so weird.
And don't even just make like, also all tattooers, please don't just make another version of what someone else has done that you've seen. Like, please just find, the truth is, I would say all tattooers and probably all humans are capable of creating amazing art, you know? And I think it's a matter of trusting yourself in all the flaws and eccentricities, and like trust your insecurities, enjoy them, you know, because that's part of the process, and be okay with what you put into the world visually, you know, whatever that is, it has value because it's coming from you. But if you are just copying, like I've seen some tattoos that I have seen recently, maybe 1,000 times, because unfortunately I scroll through Instagram a fair amount and I see like the same tattoo done 1,000 different times. And sometimes I think to myself, I wonder what amazing person thought of that. And then had like just a billion people thinking, this is simple enough that I could copy it, put a different color in there, or maybe just change it a little bit. And it's my tattoo that I've done.
Yeah. I understand that like with traditional work, like those designs are supposed to be like passed on throughout the years and like people are putting their own flair up. But I think that too. I'm like, but who drew it originally?
Yeah.
Oh, cool, you know? But then we also see it in other styles where people are just like taking pieces, like, you know, you're like, you can tell like, oh, that was ripped off from Guy's tattoo or from whoever's. Yeah.
And I think that I think as someone who's very visual too, we'll all see these things, you know, so you're not pulling anything off except to maybe your client who you're disservicing by not like maybe putting your love into the drawing or your heart into it, or just like some aspect of your soul. Like I really do believe that like on my best days, I'm putting like as much soul as I can into the tattoo. And like I know that that's truly my value, because like I'm a competent tattooer, but there are people who do some insane things on a technical level. And I think that like my skill is my love, you know, my personally, and like my skill is my perspective, and it's like the world that I can create that doesn't belong to anyone else but me. But you completely what's the word, disenfranchise or disempower yourself, whatever, when you do things like copy someone's style, or even don't even, you know, you're capable of creating the next big trend that someone rips off maybe, or you're capable of creating something that's beautiful and unique, every single person. And I think that you could really,
that might be why they do it more, is like the lack of confidence. Like have confidence in your artwork. You can do really beautiful shit like this.
And that's the stuff that makes you go like, wow, when you look at it, because it's like something you haven't seen before, you know. You know, even like with my work, I feel like there's a little bit of a tough situation, because the things I love, other people love and have seen a million times now. And so now they try to like influence what I do in that way. And I feel like that's always a constant battle. Like, yeah, I love mushrooms, but God only knows I don't want to just be someone who's doing some run-of-the-mill mushroom tattoo. So you're gonna have to get some folk art in there and some print or something, and you're gonna have to get like some of my Cubist bold inspiration, because
I feel like you have highly original work. I love looking through your stuff. Like you do, yeah, you bring in like the folklore and everything, but it's in like such an original way.
Yeah,
So
I want to
beautiful.
enjoy. I want to enjoy tattooing, and I think that like I could never enjoy it if I was just pushing along something that already was created.
Yeah.
And so like to be honest, actually, I don't even take that many appointments each week, even when it seems like people are starting to ask me more. Like next month, a lot of people kept asking me for August, but I'm just like, at a certain point, I can't do more than certain tattoos a week because I literally think on a tattoo way too long. I do like a bunch of different ideas first before I get to where I want to be. And I don't have the time to like draw everything and tattoo and then also hike the way and bake as much as I want. So
Yeah, and we're doing this work so we can live our lives that way. So whatever feels good to you
yeah,
is perfect.
the right way. Yeah.
Nobody wants you to overwork. I do like 4 tattoos a week, like 4 long sessions, but not that long. They're like 4 hours, I'm not working more than that. But
Yeah. That's basically the most I'd want to do too. And like I would say like all my tattoos, no matter how simple they seem, I think it's because I like do a lot of color work as you do too. But like I think so like how it is, where it's like I also like I think you do a lot of session work, or you sometimes do more session work where I do like one piece, but it's going to take me like, just so I don't want to get a tattoo from me, you're sitting there for 3 to 5 hours for almost every tattoo. So
and the design time on that, like the design time on like doing really thoughtful tattoos is serious. Like the amount of work you put in drawing these things.
Also it's about the nuances sometimes, maybe it is like the way you draw a hand a little bit different than you draw the rest of it to have this like light energy there, this bold energy there, whatever. So
cool.
I think that definitely I love putting my love into it and all the energy into it. So yeah.
It's almost time to close out. Let me pull up the YouTube, just make sure there's no questions so I don't make anybody mad. I mean, I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to. Hang on.
No problem.
And then I can do the closeout. While I'm looking at that, if you want to let us know what you are going to be doing in the future, what do you see yourself doing in the future?
All right. Wow. I want to be a host on RuPaul's Drag Race. Universe, hear me. I want to have a children's book out. I've kind of like vaguely started designing one.
While I'm looking. Sorry. There we go.
And I got.
Yep, it's gone now. Don't worry. I stopped it. I made it not happen.
And then I actually am doing some fashion photography again coming up here in San Francisco. I've been meeting with some really amazing people. So I'll be doing some editorial work just to keep my weeks varied. That's a really big thing for me too. And then, I don't know. I think that I really just want to go live in a cabin hundreds of miles away from anyone. In the middle of, I'm going to be moving to Italy in November.
Yeah.
I'm going to the Italian Alps. So I'll be living my Alp life.
That's incredible.
So I feel like those are the things that are, bubbling up for the future as I know it. But the truth is that I always find it really funny to think about the future because we don't know what's going to happen.
We don't know nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly.
So anyone in San Francisco who wants to get tattooed by Chad, get it while you can. He's going to Italy.
Yeah, you can always visit me there.
So my closeout, you can find Chadwick at Mossy Fable. That's it, right? Mossy Fable on Instagram. You can follow Reinventing the Tattoo at Reinventing the Tattoo. You can follow me at Haley Adams Tattoo, and you can follow this podcast series or video cast series at Live in the Castro Tattoo. Thank you so much for coming on here. That was amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm really honored.
No problem. I have a shirt for you, but we'll talk later.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. See ya. Thanks, Kyle.
Everyone. Thank you.